my EV won't go as far as it's advertised to go. What's up? Many people get caught out by this, and I've done videos on this before, but there is currently 749 brand new Teslas being delivered in Western Australia. And this is cropping up so many times. So I thought it's about time I made another video on this. So, for instance, my Model Y is advertised as having a range of 455 kilometres. Now, in Australia, that's the WLTP standard, and I'll go through those again in a minute. And I did do a video on the different standards ages ago, but I'm going to repeat some of that as the number of EVs is drastically increasing. So, firstly, let's just take a look at the old petrol and diesel internal combustion engine vehicles. Did they ever advertise range? No, they only ever advertised miles per gallon or litres per 100k. And you just knew that if it was a higher miles per gallon, it was better, or if it was a lower litres per 100 kilometres, it was better. But you'd never work out, if I get 10 litres per 100k, I'll be able to do 565 kilometres. You didn't, all right? And when you actually sat down and drove that internal combustion engine vehicle, it never got the stated range, ever. So let's just look back at a BMW X5 30D, which is a diesel. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I did drive some diesel vehicles before I went electric. And then I found out all about the noxious poisons coming out from the tailpipes. Now, that BMW X5 was supposed to get 7.2 litres per 100 kilometres. Yes, sure. The best I could ever do was 8.5 litres per 100k, and usually it was closer to 9 litres per 100k. Did that worry me? Did I hear people complaining that they couldn't go as far as they thought they could, as the trip meter indicated a decreased range? No, it didn't. And there's no such thing, therefore, really, as range. It was your petrol or diesel tank and litres per 100k. But no one ever stated 500k's range or whatever. The indicator on the tank of petrol or diesel goes F, but half, but E, empty. And that was it. It didn't go 500, 250, 0. So now, because EVs, it shows range as well as percentage full. And this is what's confusing people. So really with EVs, we should just stick with the percentage indicator, not the range indicator, because the percentage indicator is basically the same as your old petrol and diesel gauge. But no, people will still look at the range estimated by the battery and then go, oh, it's not as far as the advertised range. Now, if we actually look at all these test cycles, they range from quite inaccurate, the CLTC, the Chinese Light Duty Vehicle Test Cycle, and the NEDC, which stands for the New European Driving Cycle, although I prefer the not even damn close translation. And these overestimate by about 30%. Now, the NEDC was used in China, but their CLTC standard took over, or is taking over. Now, the rest of the world, like Australia, was using the WLTP, which stands for Worldwide Harmonised Light Vehicle Test Procedure. Mouthful and a half, these standards, aren't they? And that's what's used in Australia, but it still overestimates the real world range by about 20%. And then we've got the EPA, or Environmental Protection Agency, which is in the USA. And even though this is slightly more generous than real world range, it's probably the most accurate. Now, the problem with these test cycles is that they're run indoors on rollers, and they take the car through a set of acceleration, constant speed, deceleration routines to simulate city and highway driving. This never takes into account wind resistance, weather such as rain, temperature, road surface, all of which can affect the final result. Now, all of these tests were originally designed not only to gauge the fuel efficiency, but the emissions of these internal combustion engine vehicles. So nowadays with EVs, it's just to calculate the range. But the actual test procedure is problematic, in my opinion. So let's take the CLTC standard, which includes 3 test phases: slow, medium, fast driving. Now, the process takes 30 minutes and the vehicle travels a total of only about 14.5 kilometers, which is, I don't know, it's under 10 miles anyway, maybe 9 miles. The CLTC test has more stops than the WLTP, and the top speed is limited to 114 kilometers an hour, which is slower than both the NEDC and WLTP tests. The EPA ratings are the most accurate when compared to real world, about 10%, maybe 15% too high, but they're 10 to 15% lower than the WLTP protocol, which is the next most accurate. Now, there was a source in China that showed that the vehicle, if it had got a WLTP range of 398 kilometers, the NEDC will give it a range of 484, and the CLTC 509 kilometers. Now, that's a huge difference. If you take off about a quarter of that 484, you're going to get down to about the 370 mark. So they do overestimate. Oh, and while we're at it, could you boop those like and subscribe buttons below? That would be electrifying. And best of all, it won't cost you anything. Now, one of the reasons that the EPA test procedure is the most accurate is the way the test is conducted, much better than the CLTC one. The car is fully charged and left overnight. The next day, it's put on the dynamometer, those rollers, and taken through a series of multiple cycle city and highway testing until the battery is out of charge. The EPA then takes that range, multiplies that by 0.7, or knocks 30% off, if you like, to provide the final rating of the EV tested. Now, manufacturers can run their own tests in their own facilities, which is one of the problems with the EPA testing, but it does win out on all other aspects. Now, one of the reasons Teslas in particular get such good EPA range results is that Tesla uses the rules to their utmost advantage, and it runs more tests, sometimes up to 5 full tests, I believe. And it also uses some low speed runs where the Tesla is actually very efficient. Now, this is not necessarily Tesla's fault. They're just gaming the system, and all manufacturers can follow the same process if they like. Once these test cycles are completed, they're blended together and reduced by that 30% to get the sticker range. The problem is also that we all drive our cars very differently. Some people drive them like they stole them. Others drive them like an old granny going to church on Sundays. For instance, I drive what I consider is reasonable. I don't plant my foot on the accelerator by any means. I stick to the speed limits. I don't accelerate fast, but I don't accelerate slow. My wife, however, always gets better consumption than me. She accelerates slow. She's one of those people I dread to get stuck behind. Yeah, you know the ones. The old grannies going to church on Sundays. So just in my family, me and the wife, we get two totally different ranges by at least 10%, if not a bit more. So what you get out of your nice shiny new EV will not be what the sticker is or what the sticker says. So stop looking at the range. And if you do and are upset by the range, it's not as high, have a look at your driving style. Don't drive it like you stole it. Drive it like your granny. So you may actually think, oh, I'm doing all right. Like, I think I do all right, but my wife still gets better fuel consumption than me. So look, I know there's range anxiety and you want to compare it to the advertised range. But what do you think? Do you get close to the advertised range or are you miles off? Comment in the section below and let me know how well you do. Most people will never get the stated EPA range or any other range. Now, I do think that they should perhaps look at giving a bracket of ranges. So my car, if my wife drives it, would get closer to the specified 455. I drive it, I get 400, depending upon where I'm going. So, if you bracket it 350 to 450, that would be better in my opinion, and maybe some manufacturers need to start doing that instead of not exactly cooking the books, but using the rules to their advantage to say, look at this car, it'll do 5,000 kilometer range, when in reality it won't. So, what do you think? Comment below. Thanks very much for watching. I hope that's explained a little bit about the difference between stated range and actual range. If you could please help me, that would be nice. Just click those like and subscribe buttons below. Thank you so much. That would be great. And it doesn't cost you anything. And if you'd like to make a contribution, you can click on that super thanks below. And I've also left some links in the description as well. So if you want to buy a nice shiny new Tesla with an exaggerated range, you can use my link, and that would be great. You get $750 off in Australia. I think it's $500 in America, and various other discounts around the world. So thanks very much, and I'll see you all very soon.